Record. All right.
Hey,
Hello, Patrick. Mr. Fischler, how are
how-
you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you, bud?
Good. Thank
Good.
you so much for talking to me.
Of course.
This is it's obviously a subject. Men's mental health is the subject. I think it's going to be the subject for the future. I mean, I think we live in a world where self-care and self-help and really being aware of ourselves mentally and physically is becoming much more of a norm, which I think
Mhm.
is important. And I don't think no matter which way you turn, you're going to run into somebody who's had an encounter with depression, substance abuse, um, suicide, um, all the things that are a byproduct of, I think, not to simplify it, but life is hard. And I
Mhm.
think it needs to be normalized that men can talk to other men, to other people, to
Yeah,
therapists. Um, and so thank you so much for joining.
of course, man. Please, and anything for you. And I think this subject is hugely important. It's one of the biggies.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Patrick and I met on Patrick and I feel like I'm talking to the abyss. You and I met on NCIS Origins, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but like that first time I met you, I came out and I said I was just like I've been so excited everything since they mentioned your name. Um, you know, I've been a fan of your work. Like I feel like you have this very unique voice and very unique presence on camera, and
Mm.
it's something that I notice um, in all your work because you're very interesting to watch. You make really cool choices. Um, you're such a pro on set. I mean, it's so nice. Have you ever like really liked somebody and then met them and then been like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to Hollywood.
Welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah.
You were the opposite of that experience because I got to meet you and I got to work with you and then I just got to watch you sit back. Would you sit in your chair so much as Cliff Wheeler,
Mhm.
as you live in the sky above us minions that do all the
Mhm.
dirty work downstairs. But like I remember that first scene that we shot together. You were like, "Hey man, I think it'd be cool if you just grab the peanuts." And you just popped one in your mouth as you left. And I was like, shit, why didn't I think about that? That's such a good thing. And obviously, I was like, yes, Patrick, I'm going to try anything you suggest because you're brilliant. And I did it. And of course, that's what they use. And they're like, it was a big talking point about episode one was just like this wonderful relationship where I could just pick food off your desk.
Uh-huh. Dude, thank you. I mean, look, I've said it to you on set and I've said it to you in text. I'm just working with you is now this is going to be this love fest that people are bored by, but I
No, I want to hear.
yes,
I love hearing it from you.
I work a lot and so I go on sets and I just want to be a pro and I want to work with people who give back and are, also pros and you are all of that. You're easy to act with, you're a dream to talk to. I mean, honestly, dude, it's just I am so happy they write all our stuff together because it
Yeah,
makes me happy that I just get to be with you.
me
Honestly,
too.
for
It's
real.
it's it's a treat.
Yeah.
Um, All right. Outside of all that, let's jump into
Yeah.
this because this
Yeah.
is it's important stuff. And I lead with this generational this question about like this generation gap.
Yeah.
Obviously we're living in a world at the moment where information is at our fingertips. We
Mhm.
have the internet. We've got like Twitter and all these different things. Now
Uh,
there's negative aspects to social media.
yeah.
I've talked to a couple people about that. But there's a ton of positive things when it comes to having this access to information online as well. But
Yeah.
generationally, like I was born in '84. My parents were pretty cool. They weren't like super rigid. Obviously, like they were from the '20s.
Mhm.
But like also the idea of like self-help and what's wrong and let's talk about our feelings. It wasn't necessarily um something that was like celebrated. It wasn't
Yeah.
something that was like encouraged. It was just kind of like, come on, get up, like
Yeah.
get back to it.
Yeah.
And that in some ways, you know, instilled a sense of strength in me when I was younger to get up and move on with my life.
Hmm.
But it also, I think, negatively reinforced, and this is just for me because this is the beauty of this question. Everybody has a different answer. Everybody has a
Yeah.
different experience. Um, for a long time, it was just like, well, just don't bring it up. Don't bitch. Don't talk
Hmm.
about it. Just
Hmm.
you know, pull up your boots and move forward. What was it like, for you growing up? Where were you born? Because East Coast and West Coast and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
I think does play a part in it. Um,
I'm a Gen X kid. I was born in 69, so I was a teenager in the 80s, and
yeah.
parents were divorced when I was super young.
Okay.
And so I did not get any, there was no talk of mental health. Positive, negative, there wasn't keep it to yourself, but there also wasn't, how are you? Are you good? How are you feeling? None of it. I
Mm,
was left to my own devices. I was like a latchkey kid.
yeah.
Uh, and so I grew up in LA, spent my whole childhood in LA. I got none of that. Anything I found as a grown person, I found on my own. I'm not mirroring anything. If anything, I'm probably doing the opposite, which I think happens a lot. I think kids either mirror what is happening in their household or they realize, like, I don't want to do that. I want to do
Sure.
something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I had. I think because I was alone a lot, like most of my childhood in front of a TV, that's
Hmm.
why I mean, literally it was Mike TV. And I had to take care of myself. My only option was to be positive because if I was negative, I was alone and that was scary. As a little
Hmm.
kid, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it's scary.
Hmm.
And I don't mean I was fakely positive, but I mean, what has happened to me as an adult is I'm optimistic. I'm incredibly optimistic.
Yes.
Um, and I'm not blindly optimistic, which my wife will tell you. I am not that guy. I'm not the like, I look at facts or I look at information and that helps me
Hmm.
make decisions of what I think is coming or how I feel.
Yeah.
But I'm an optimistic guy for the most part.
I love that. So, by product of your environment,
Yeah.
you learned tools
Yeah.
to take
Survive.
on hurdles in life,
Yeah.
which
I mean,
which is
yeah.
essentially optimism,
Yeah.
and not blind optimism, which I think is a really really important thing to digest here. Is being blindly optimistic is never a smart idea because we need all the facts to make informed decisions.
Totally.
Um, but I'm also going to touch on this and redirect if. But you have an incredible sense of humor.
Thank you.
You're very smart. You're witty. Your
Yeah.
comebacks are fast.
Yeah.
That is a big sign of intelligence. Um, do you think
Hmm.
a sense of humor is also a tool to be used in life?
I think a sense of humor is everything. If
It's
someone does
essential.
not have a sense of humor, I married my wife. She's the funniest person I've ever met. And I mean, she really is. She's the
Yeah.
funniest. And we laugh together. That is
Hmm.
the joy. We've been together for 27 years.
Hmm.
And we still have times of laughing so uncontrollably that we have to pause whatever we're watching or stop talking to just take a breath because we're laughing so hard. So sense of humor, and she comes from a family of funny women.
Okay.
Uh, I wouldn't say my family has a great sense of humor, actually. I think I found it on my own. But yeah, sense of humor is key. It's everything. It's like, why would we not want to laugh? Because there's so much shit and we're piled with it. We're piled with
Mm.
all the shit, especially now with the internet and social media. And I remember, I'm going to sound 140, but like as a kid, we didn't have the internet. So like life was just different. We weren't bombarded in the way that I watch my daughter, who's 15,
Mhm.
be bombarded now. And, so I'm a big one for just laugh, man. Find someone who makes you laugh.
Find someone who makes you laugh. Now, laughter is an outlet,
What did you say?
right?
Laugh. What?
Laughter is an outlet.
Yeah.
Like working out might be an outlet, or like
Yeah.
walking to a secluded field and screaming might be an outlet.
All of it. All of
Like
it.
all of those things, finding what works for you
Yeah.
is a really, really important tool to have.
Yeah.
Some
100%.
people might need to hit a punching bag. Some people might need a hug. Some people might
Yep.
just need to laugh. Watch
Yeah.
a happy movie. Watch a comedy. Sit in your room
Yeah.
by
Yep.
yourself if you need, but try and find something that gives you an outlet, right?
All of it. Everything you just said.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, and even if it's all of them. The people who want to just work out, then laugh, then watch them, all of it. do it. Whatever brings you joy. Joy is
Yeah.
just key. Joy is everything. Like I could start crying
Hmm.
because I love joy so much. Like it is the best feeling in the world. All my memories. I chose this shirt. It's a U2 concert shirt from like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was what I was wearing when my daughter was born.
Oh, cool.
Randomly, not thought of. It says hello,
Mhm.
hello.
Yep.
And I chose today. I went in, I was like, what t-shirt? Oh, I'm wearing that because this, one of the most joyful days of my entire existence, uh, is the day she was born. And I didn't know what it was going to happen. I didn't know what the future was. This is 15
Right.
years ago, but I
Yep.
remember that day. There's just those days in our life that we look back on and we're like, so to me, joy is key. That's,
No, no
wherever
doubt.
you can find it, whatever that looks like for you.
I'm gonna go in a different direction
Oh,
because like
take
you
us
just
everywhere.
reminded me of this thing like joy. Your daughter's 15, so if I do the math, she'd probably be about 10, 9 or 10. Did you see Inside Out?
Of course.
I think I cried. I think as an adult,
Oh,
I'm reminded of like my inner child. And it took me like years of therapy to really like understand the idea of an inner child. It's like the way you look at the world and look at yourself from the perspective of the unadulterated, unfiltered person that you were when you were a kid, right?
mhm. Yeah.
And that movie for me was actually like it was actually therapeutic,
Hmm.
um, because it stripped away all the bullshit
Yeah.
that I had like used as armor over the years to go like to just shrug everything off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even the good things, like I found myself, you know, getting a job that I had vied and like cried over and just wanted so badly, and then just
Yeah.
been like, well, got it, just just go. Instead of
Yeah.
being like, fuck, I worked so hard for
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
shit, man.
Yeah.
Like I this is everything I've wanted.
Yeah.
So I think over the years I'd learned to numb myself to a lot of the emotion I was feeling just as an adult because
Yeah.
life is hard. Life is just this accumulation of experiences that may be good and may be bad. And,
Mhm.
hopefully life has balanced itself out in a way where you are having equal of both, I hope.
Uh-huh.
Um, but like that movie for me was just this great look into like, God, we really are just like a few simple emotions that we're
Inside our
trying to
body
figure out, right?
that are wrestling each other and also loving each other. And I mean, again, I hate to bring it to the back, but I had a kid at the time I
Yeah,
saw that. So for me, it was funny. It didn't go into me. It went fully out to Fia, my
yeah,
my feelings about that movie. So like the imaginary friend thing,
hmm,
you have a baby, you'll see that's a real thing.
yeah,
Like Fia didn't even have imaginary friends. It was more the talking to the stuffed animals and all of that. And the idea of saying goodbye to that. When I saw that movie, you could have picked me up off the theater floor. I was just such a wreck. And then we took Fia to go see the sequel. Now she's 15, and I was like, "You're coming
yep.
with us. You're not going with your friends. You're not supporting this movie. I'm dragging you." And I was sobbing in the sequel just because Fia's 15. Like I've seen this
The
teenage
timing was perfect.
yeah, it's all been perfect. So if they make another one, I'm just gonna, I don't know. Yes, I connect very much to Pixar movies.
Same. I think they've
So
got they've got some kind of factory thing
yeah,
with their scripts, but like,
there's some connection to human emotion with Up and Wally. All of them have something that I, as a human being, feel like they're some of the most important movies that have been made.
yeah,
Um, so yeah.
cue the waterworks. Like I
Oh
know
yeah.
at minute 26, I'm gonna be bawling. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Except
this.
in Up, it's at minute 3 when they do the whole thing about the couple. I mean,
Oh
forget it.
my
That's
God.
another thing is being with Lauren as long as I've been with Lauren and
Yeah.
watching a couple age together, which is something we're
Mhm.
talking about and going through now is, as we've entered into our 50s, and we've been together since our 20s. And
Yeah.
it's like we're watching each other get older and yet looking at each other and still being like, wait, you're not 25 anymore? Like what
Yeah.
happened? What we think we are, like we just see each other as the people we were. And we are still those people, but we're also people now that are totally different than that. Um, you know,
Isn't it interesting how like relativity
Mhm.
in general, like as a concept, truly is just kind of works across the board. Like I remember being like who you love,
Mhm.
how you see the world, what is new, all of that, like and age in general. Like you just described growing older with your wife,
Mhm.
but you guys don't see each other as older because
It-
in relatively you guys are still like relativity you guys are still the same age. You guys are still
we've
seeing
watched
the
each other.
world
Yeah. Yeah.
through the same goggles
Yeah.
because that's never going to change. And I think there's something beautiful about that.
It's
Um,
well, I mean, it's special and crazy and weird and all of it. It's all things.
yeah,
Like
right. Like,
everything. That's this conversation though, is everything is all things. That's
right.
my it's truly that's my statement I would say is everything is all things. That sounds stupid because of course everything is all things, but I'm a big one for all the feelings, all of them.
Mhm.
They're all in us. We need to let all of them out, whatever they are. And I'm a big crier. I'm a
Yeah.
and I mean, I have no shame about it. I've been a big crier since I was, a young guy.
Hmm.
I get moved by movies. I get
Hmm.
moved by TV. I get moved by stories my friends tell me. I get moved by a lot of stuff, and I'm not ashamed to let it out all the time. And my daughter has watched me. It's a joke when I get up to make a toast or someone is toasting me. 98% chance I'm going to cry. And it's not fake. It's not like it's a real connection to myself and to that person or that movie or whatever that experience is. I just get connected. I feel very connected.
I love that. I think one of the most courageous, and I'll talk about masculinity just for a second, and this
Please,
is
yeah.
kind of a cool segue into it because generationally we talk about masculinity, and to me it was like the Marlboro Man.
Mhm,
It was Davy Crockett.
mhm,
It was the lumberjack, the mechanic, the
mhm,
construction worker. That you just you had a cigarette, you had a beer, and that was it. You're kind of like Mike Franks in a way. Like Mike
mhm. Yeah,
Franks to me is like on the outside. I think is this the kind of the image of kind of toxic masculinity.
yeah,
Now, when you get to know him on the show, you peel that back and like he's just a softie with a big heart who just
yeah,
doesn't know how to express his feelings. And I think
yes.
for a show that takes place in 91, that's great.
It's
But
pretty awesome. Yeah.
what I've learned over years, through therapy and having these conversations with friends, um, being vulnerable, allowing yourself to feel your emotions. Now that takes real courage. That is takes bravery, learning understanding and learning how to express yourself and communicate to your loved ones, to your kids, to your partner, and to your friends. That is a lot harder than picking up an axe and splitting a piece of wood.
Yeah. I mean, I've had no connection to your description of masculinity. It's so funny, is never been any connection I've ever had to it. I've never thought of it that way. I have always thought of it no different than femininity in a sense. It's all just to me, like I'd said earlier, it's all um, awareness,
Mm-hmm.
connection. That's all. Obviously, Marlboro Man. Yes, it's the picture of a man in quotes.
Sure.
But to me, because I've always been who I am in terms of connected to a human being and connected to my emotions, that to me is masculine.
Yeah.
Masculinity is whatever you are. It is
Yeah.
truly whatever you are and whatever your priority is, or that's what it is. So if it's a guy who's a cowboy, who's a real rock and doesn't like to express himself, but he is a healthy guy, but he's just that's his choice, is he's like, I
Right.
don't like to express myself. I like
Mm-hmm.
to keep it few and far between for that. That's amazing. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's healthy mentally, fantastic. My whole thing is whatever makes you happy is the answer, always, in all of life. Whatever, as long as you're not harming another human being,
Right.
that is the priority. And so if you're mentally healthy, and you're not expressing stuff, but you feel good about that, do you know what I mean? In a real way,
Sure.
that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I'm not going to tell everybody they have to sort of wear their emotions on their sleeve, like I do,
I like that. Yeah.
because you can't do that. That's not life. We're all so different. But
So
that's what,
there is no one way to get
of
it
course
right.
not. Yeah.
Right.
Never, never for anything. I say
Right.
that for acting, for literally, you could apply to anything. There's no
Mhm.
one way to anything. There's your way. And if your way is working and you're good, God, awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
happy. Good.
I love that. That's encouraging because we get in these conversations and we have, you know, this wealth of information at our fingertips, and we can list off all of these stats,
Yeah.
but it's also not fair to lump these issues into a bunch of stats because we are
Yeah.
all different
Yeah. I
and
mean, that's
we are
really
complex human beings and our brains work differently and what we need is different and what our love languages are different,
all of it.
you know.
All of it.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, that's the key to all of it, you know.
So I mean, I hear you just saying like respecting our individuality and our identity
Yes.
kind of makes me feel like it's okay to take off the mask a little bit. You know, it's
You want to
okay.
always wear a mask. Like,
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. There was a time in my life, and I mean, I still get. I'll be honest with you, Patrick, because I'm because life is tough.
yeah.
Because I've got my wife, who I love to death, and I'm working um a crazy amount of hours at the moment and at times in my life, and I'm very blessed
Hmm.
to be doing what I love and to have a family.
Hmm.
And sometimes I feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends,
Hmm.
and I don't. Sometimes it feels selfish to be like, "Fuck, this is hard,"
It's not selfish.
because because I'm very at the moment I feel very lucky. I haven't always been in this situation, you know.
I know,
Because
but Kyle, let me just tell you right there, that's part of all of this is you are lucky, you're fortunate, sure. But if you don't acknowledge how you're feeling, no matter where you are, if you're at the bottom of something and you're just like life is just hammering, and you should acknowledge where you are. If you're at the top, but there's still hard things about being there, if you're like, I can't acknowledge this because I'm lucky to be here. I have to just do that. That's also not healthy.
well, I don't think
Again,
I'm not. I can acknowledge it. It's finding the time or space to be able to talk about it.
yeah,
Um,
that's okay. That's different.
because I can acknowledge it because I've done years of therapy.
Hmm.
Um, I've always been very empathetic. I've always sought out these conversations.
Hmm.
I've always sought out the deeper conversation in typical social scenarios. Um, and so like I enjoy connecting with people on a personal level, on a deeper
Hmm.
level.
Hmm.
Um, I just don't always, I think that's why I find this experience so rewarding.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
It's like
because
forced.
all of a sudden we're getting together to talk about mental health, and it's like, okay, here's some talking points, and like we kind of know, like the world is changing. We've got this dynamic landscape, and you know,
Uh-huh.
hopefully we're moving in the right direction. And
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden, I get to sit across from you, for example, and all the if, the why, the what kind of disappears, and we're just
Hmm.
two human beings that are actually having a meaningful
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I'll be the first one to admit I should be like I feel underwater sometimes, and I feel like I don't I feel like I'm doing a good job at holding it together, but like it's also like a lot and draining and a lot of pressure and a lot of other things. And I want to come home and I want to show my wife that I'm doing a good job.
Hmm.
And I want to show the people I'm working with that, you know, I do feel like there's a sense of projecting a confidence
Hmm.
when we are at work that is something that should, a lead by example kind of idea.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because that's also your workplace.
Mhm.
That's a little different than coming home and being able to take off
Yes.
that face and stuff. Because, going to work and doing your job and being good at your job is important,
Yes.
right? There is a bit of a difference between where and when we choose to talk about these things, right?
100%. Yes. By the way, that's all accurate. And when I say like take the mask off, usually work isn't the place to do it because you're there
No, no, okay, yeah,
because they're putting it on and you're there to do a job. Literally, they're putting on makeup. And so there is
yep.
an element of like you get into that chair, that's when work starts. They're kind of putting a outfit on you and uh, that is a place you should not probably take the mask off unless there's a moment that you're at lunch and you and I are sitting and talking and you're like, fuck, I want to tell you this thing that happened. And you open up about something if you want to, like
Mhm.
it's all valid. Again, I promise you, whatever your road is a good road. But
Right.
that I meant more sort of like who wants to wear, like just to occasionally take that mask off. It's the
Yeah.
problem is sort of always leaving it on. And you want to be able to come home, but again, you have a baby. So you're coming home and your mind is on all these things. You're doing the sort of in quotes masculine thing of like, I'm the man coming home. I just worked today. And
Mhm.
there's a little element of that I'm like, you can also come home and, say to Katie, be like, oh my God, what have you done? And like, and not worry. My concern is when people worry about, oh, but this other person is this or this other person is that. I don't know if I can open up to them because if you start to assume things, that's super dangerous too, I think, of not being able to open up because of where that other person is, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. There's reading the room. There's
Sure.
times that it's not right, and you're like, yeah, this isn't the time. And then there's times where it's just like, if you need to do it, again, taking care of yourself. You can't, you got to put the life jacket, the mask, whatever that bullshit is on the airplane, on
Right.
yourself. And that is an accurate, there's a reason that that is a life-saving technique. You will
Right.
not be able to take care of the other people if you are not taking care of yourself first. You literally won't be able to breathe if you're not putting the mask on yourself. Our impulse is, oh, take care of others, I'll be fine. But the reality is, if you are not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of the other people
That is very true.
you know.
That is very, very true.
So I'm a big one. Look, I've been in therapy since I was, which is a technique I use. I've been, I mean, what am I, 26 years now of therapy? My dad died when I was 27, and I was like, I need to go to therapy. I knew it. I knew in
Mhm.
the moment that I was, and I never thought about it really before then, but I knew his death was like, oh, wait, death. Oh shit, I hate death. What the fuck is death? And so I
Sure.
started going to therapy and I've been on and off since then. For whatever reason, little things happen. I'll call my therapist, be like, can we get back on? And then I sort of see it for a while. And the same with Lauren and I. We've been in couples therapy for on and off for like 20 years.
That's awesome.
I'm
It's
a
so
big
healthy
one.
just to have a third party that is not opinionated of one polarized on one side or another side. It's just to
Yeah.
have like a bounce
It's an
board.
incredible outlet if you have the ability to do it
Yeah.
financially, and if you don't, there's rolling like it's a really, really, really good outlet. And lots of people are not fond of it and
Hmm.
and haven't been.
Hmm.
Lots of couples say to us, like, oh, isn't that the end of your marriage? I'm literally like, are you high? That
Yeah.
was one of the deepest things we've ever done. It's one
Yeah.
of the things that's given us a base that's been even stronger. Our tree is so strong because we keep sort of taking care of the roots. So,
Yes. Build a strong foundation.
yes, yes,
I've been
100%.
I've been in therapy. Do you know so like I went and saw a lot of therapists. I had therapists that didn't work for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
Um, I've had therapists that like, kind of the Freudian idea. You sit back, you lie back on a couch, and you go, tell me about your dreams, and I'm like, this is bullshit.
Uh-huh.
And then I've had friends swear by that method. I found like a cognitive behavioral therapist for myself that gave me a more practical um, more practical feedback
Hmm.
from my actions and the way I was thinking about things. And I
Yeah.
found for me that's what really worked for me. Finding the right therapy is, I think, the hardest thing to do. Finding the right person to talk to, because
Hmm.
just because you're going and saying I'm going to try therapy once, I mean, every single therapist I've ever met has been dramatically different.
Mm.
So for those of anybody who are thinking about therapy, do some research.
Yeah.
Maybe think about how you like to converse with somebody. Do you just want to spill? Or do you want somebody to give you maybe some guidance?
Hmm.
Or do you need to figure that out for yourself?
Hmm.
Because, a lot of therapists will give you a shorter first time session of 15 to
Hmm.
20
Hmm.
minutes to sit and talk with them to see if you figure it out.
Hmm.
You're not stuck, with the $200-300 bill just to get a meet and greet and be like, tell me about the way you practice.
And you're also just not stuck with the person. Like you said, you can go through 20 of them
Yeah.
until you find what you want. There's no rules to any of it. You can also feel like you like someone and then be a couple of months in and think, you know what, actually, this isn't the vibe. As long as you're being honest and the reason isn't because they're getting to something that's making you uncomfortable, I think that, as you know, that's important. If that's what it's going on for you, then maybe stay a little longer. Maybe don't.
Yes.
But if it's just not jiving, it's
Hmm.
like a relationship.
Hmm.
It is a relationship. And so
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate that most of the ones I've just randomly picked,
Mhm.
like the first therapist I saw was just through SAG. I remember calling SAG and being like, can I get a list of names? The first woman I went to, we just jived. And I saw her for years,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
I
you're
found
right.
mine through my health insurance as well.
Yeah.
I went through a list. I think I saw 4 or 5 before I met her, and I was just like, oh, you're the person I need.
Yeah.
But if you have any kind of health insurance, if you call them up and you tell them that you are looking for somebody that's in your network,
Yeah.
that's a great way to find somebody that is um, more reasonably priced and
Yes.
easily accessible.
100%. Yeah. There's a
Um,
way for everybody. I
yes.
believe it in my heart. I had a friend who was a therapist and he would take clients who didn't have money and he'd take them on a rolling scale of,
Yeah.
so there's always a way. There's always a way.
There's always a way.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we've talked about the generational stuff. Um, I think we've talked about, I mean, we've just got an overall sense of why it's important,
Hmm.
respecting mental health and your own mental health. We've actually also talked about a lot of the methods that you've used over the
Hmm.
years to kind of hone that in. And it sounds like, you were very fortunate as a young man to kind of figure out your identity and who you were
Hmm.
and use that. And I can tell the way that you carry yourself on set with that confidence of being so good at your job and what you do for a living.
Hmm.
Um, you've got your daughter, 15 years old, right? Like she's gonna get into the dating pool. She's going,
Mm.
I mean, she's
She's in it.
going,
She's
she's
in it.
going, she's in it already.
All right.
Oh my
She's gonna
God.
kill me. Let's keep
Okay,
it
why
big.
why is it
We're there
important to try and make a change now for the future?
because as it's always been, the future is everything.
Yeah,
The next generation and the next generation, that's they are the ones that are going to keep this world going. And so if we can just help them to achieve a better one than we had, that's it. I mean, that is literally everything. Again, I'll say it, it's everything. The
it's
next generation is the key because we are going to age out. I mean, I'm seeing it. I watch it. I watch it with sort of my parent, you sort of see as the pyramid goes like that and the base gets the younger generation is the one holding it together. We try to hold it together, but it's not about us. You know what I mean? It's fully about them.
it
They are
is.
everything. So if we can help them to learn from our mistakes and which is hard. It's really hard. Because I don't feel like that's been necessarily the case all of life. It usually isn't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we could, my wife and I were talking about we're like this sandwich generation right now, Generation X. We've got the really old parents and the young kids. Like it's a really hard position to be in.
It's a dramatic spectrum right there.
Yeah, 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 very much so. But I'm
Wow.
watching sort of Lauren's parents who are in their early 90s, and they're just like, we want a better world for you guys before we go. And then, I'm looking at Fia and I'm like, I want her to enjoy herself and I want her to be all great. But I want to give her the tools, and I want her to pass those tools on to the guys in her class, because it's harder for men. It just is. It still is. It's just, and I fear toxic masculinity is coming back. is something that I'm worried about, like not wanting to, I just don't want it to be a bunch of shit, basically. I want human beings to respect and love each other and be empathetic and
As they should,
understand.
as we can only hope to instill as the next definition of masculinity, which you brought. It's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Masculinity should be taking pride in making the hard decisions,
Yep.
standing up for the little person,
Yeah.
taking care of your loved ones, loving wholly and deeply with your whole heart,
Yes.
respecting your emotions. All of those things are incredibly courageous and brave.
Hmm.
Those are what builds character,
I know.
you know. So, Patrick, I really appreciate our friendship. It really is a pleasure to go to work with you. I text you when we're not at work together because I genuinely miss you. The world is lucky to have a person in it that sees the world the way that you do, and I love you very much, man.
Oh, dude, right back at you. For reals, I love you, and I'm so grateful that the world brought us together because there's a reason, and I'm so happy you're in my life. I
Thank you,
really,
man. Now, Patrick is, and we are on NCIS Origins Mondays at 10 o'clock.
yes,
Patrick is
everybody
also
watch
on
it.
every other television channel and station and
Watch
show
watch
that
every
you watch.
station, but right now focus on CBS at 10, or just go to Paramount Plus. Then
There you go.
you can watch all of them, catch up. Watch this fucking dude kick ass on TV. By the way, I'm pointing at you, Kyle Schmidt, because you kill it, and clearly you are awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you
buddy.
so much for this, man. I look forward
Of
to
course.
continuing this conversation
Always. I'm always here.
next time I see you.
For you and for everybody else. If anyone needs me, let me know. I can help you.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, buddy.